Well, I was a member of Miss Luper's class at Dungy, and her history class. And Miss Luper was quite a teacher. She was one of those teachers that stick in your mind always and forever. And I also became a part of the NAACP youth group, and she was our youth director. And so that's how I got involved. I was about 14, yeah, and I was not a part of the original 13 that went, but she started taking other students over a period of time, and so I was about 14. Well, one of the things about being involved in the sit-ins is not every parent was supportive of that. And my mother wanted me to be involved in the NAACP in the youth group and loved Miss Luper as a teacher because and at that time a lot of the parents socialized with the teachers, and she considered Miss Luper one of the best. And at the time that Miss Luper started that, my mother was not for it. And so I just remember Mother calling Miss Luper and then going up to talk to her, saying she didn't want her daughter to be locked up and did not want her to be hurt in anything that she was doing. Of course, I was like all the other kids. I was excited about the idea of getting locked up because it was kind of like an adventure, you know, and going with Miss Luper was like an adventure. So my mother said to Miss Luper, "Do not get my daughter locked up." Well, I remember us going to the meeting, and then from the meeting we would go up to Calvary, and she started having people to teach us how to react if somebody misuse you or push you, not to talk back, not to just relax your body, and not to get offended, and realize that this is for a greater cause. And so we went up to Calvary on Saturday and we sang songs to kind of pump us up. And I just remember the one time that, well, I got locked up twice. Getting a chance to go downtown. The first time we went to John A. Brown's, and we were locked up after that. And what I didn't know until years and years later was that Miss Luper called them her angels, because there were whites and blacks all over town that helped pay and make sure that we went in and got right out and we weren't harmed. And of course she had a relationship with the police officials, and they were determined to protect us. And so, yes, I remember getting excited about, we all got in the paddy wagon and went downtown. And now when I think about that, I think how ridiculous that we would be excited to go to jail. But of course, that was an adventure. And then the second time, I remember it was at another place. It wasn't John A. Brown's, but I do remember sitting at John A. Brown's a long, long time when we couldn't get fed. And eventually Miss Luper talked to Mrs. John A. Brown, and they became friends. They became friends after that. But those were a couple of times that I remember, and all my classmates were there. And like I said, each time it was a different group. Some of us the same and some of us, but over the period of time, I think she probably had over 100 kids. Really, I just remember all of us was so excited because anything Miss Luper did, we wanted to do good for her because, like I said, Miss Luper was a teacher that everything she talked about was dealing with the bettering of ourselves or making sure that we understood that we were not better than, but equal to everybody. And she was constantly letting us know about Black history. And so that was how I kind of got involved in that. They mostly ignored us and mostly, really and truly, they didn't say a lot of bad things to us, and I think that was Miss Luper's strategy, the fact that we were kids, that maybe people wouldn't be as hateful as they would to adults. And I just remember people pushing us and people mumbling to themselves or saying things to themselves, but as far as actually attacking us, the times that I went, I didn't remember anybody just reaching out to attack us. You know, words were said, but Ms. Luper told us to ignore those, and if she told us to sing, we would sing, you know. And but of course, during that period of time, we had no idea what kind of impact we were making. Well, there were people in the community that showed support. And I'm sure there were some employees, like I said, they made an effort to just ignore us, like they would fill the seats in when we went to John A. Brown, so we couldn't sit. And we would then sit on the floor and then try to get into the seats as they would empty out, but they would make sure that there would be another white patron to get into the seats, or an employee. They even start putting signs in the seats about these seats are reserved for employees, you know. But I'm sure there were some that were supportive of us because they didn't do anything negative to us. But like I said, I think now that I look back on it, I think the whole plan was the fact that she felt that people wouldn't misuse children as much as they would adults. So you know, of course, we didn't realize she had a plan. But well, I think, like Ms. Luper said, that there was a lot of good people out there. They just didn't, they were going with the times. They were doing what was done traditionally. And she felt that with love, and there was a lot of Christian people and a lot of people that supported us, she thinks that it wasn't just the fact that the stores began to lose some business but get a lot of attention. She thinks it was because they really didn't have a bad heart to begin with. And like I said, with Miss John A. Brown's, she became close friends with her, and so things began to turn. But things turned at the Katz drugstore before I really got involved, because that was like a three-day situation. But I think it's because the stores realized that it was wrong, that people of all colors should be able to feel comfortable in going into a department store or any store and not have to be treated as a second-class citizen, or not be fed, or not be managed in the same way. So I think that made a difference. I think people I guess I still believe people have a good heart. Yeah. Well, Miss Luper really played a role in my life from the time I started in her class and being part of the youth group. I have continued to be a part of NAACP since that time. At the same time, my sister, my baby sister, graduated from Langston University, and Ms. Luper had just started the Miss Black Oklahoma, and my baby sister became the first Miss Black Oklahoma. And so she was a part of our life for a long, long time, because I was always, even when I started working at Channel 5, I was involved with either helping with Miss Black Oklahoma or being involved in some NAACP program or something that she was doing in the community. So she continued to be, even to the point that I left Oklahoma City in 1997 and moved to Illinois to work in the corrections field in communications, same thing I was doing here. And when I returned, about 8, 9 years later, when I returned to Oklahoma, Ms. Luper was the first one that I saw at the Martin Luther King prayer breakfast, because I was asked to be a part of that by one of the wardens, and that was Ted Logan. And he asked me to be a part of it. And so when I walked into the meeting, Ms. Luper was there, and she said, "This is one of my students. This is what." And so she wanted me to be involved in that. So yeah, she continued to be a part of my life, because, and I guess that's why I wanted to start a magazine, which I started, because she did that for the community. To showcase our history, and I think back of my mind, I always wanted to do that. So she was a very influential part of my life. Yeah.